In this panel, we will deconstruct Indian hospitality, lodging category. So we'll talk about hotel, we will talk about alternate accommodations, we will talk about hostel. And for that conversation, I have an esteemed panel with me, Aviral Gupta, CEO of Hostel. Please come on stage. My dear friend Ritvik from Elivas, founder and CEO, Ritvik, Tejas Parulekar, and Ajita Yadav from Make My Trip, Chief Commercial Officer, Alternate Accommodation. Welcome. Thank you for making it. Thank you. Since we are limited on time, let me set the context and then we dive straight into it. I do this a lot, but usually the narrative is around hotels, chain, ADR, occupancy. And that's the reason why I thought it's a good idea, since we have this panel, that we will talk about alternate accommodations. So the reason why I want to talk about alternate accommodations is post-pandemic, India, the travel and tourism demand is off the charts. In comparison, the supply growth in hotels has been very tepid, very muted, right? The growth has largely been at the back of occupancy and ADRs. And that is where, to a great degree, we have managed to, alternate accommodation has come to avail in a big way. So this is what I mean, right? This is the whole Indian hotel market. We have the supply, we have the Oyo, Tribo, Fab, the aggregators, and we have the independents which have palaces to downtown hotels getting sold at 700 a night ADR in a tier 4, tier 5 Indian city. Everybody when talks about, they talk about Indian hotel, they typically talk about chain hotels, 8-9% contribution, about 2 lakh rooms. India has 21 lakh rooms. Chain hotels has got about 2 lakh rooms, 185,000 rooms to be precise. And they contribute almost about 28-29% of the GBV. That's the reason why they're very precious. That's the reason why they are easiest entry for online travel, OTAs, intermediaries, as well as direct distribution. So this is where we are, but this supply is not growing. In 2025, we had 10,000 new rooms being added, but there was barely any new greenfield supply. They were largely change in management, 3-star to 4-star, 4-star to 5-star. India, there is also another parallel story called verticalization, right? So with that as a backdrop, all of you guys, you are responsible for alternate accommodation, which can be any category outside of the hotel room supply. So with that, how has 2024, 2025 been for you, and how do you see 2026 panning out? Beginning with you, Aviral, from the hostel category.
Thanks for the question. I think it's a pretty apt analysis. Obviously, we'll talk about the roots first on why hostel was started. And it was about a certain level of human discovery that happens when you do social travel. And that was a personal journey that we experienced when we did these travelings ourselves, solo, across Amsterdam, across Barcelona, all of these places. And we realized that when you meet people and when you see their thoughts, frameworks, how they view success, failures, relationships, anything, walls get broken down and you realize what else is there to achieve in life. So for Hostel, the goal has always been to unlock human potential and connect people on a larger scale that was not possible before, and at the same time have fun. Hotels that we see are very structured, formal environments that is not suitable for youth to travel. And on a larger scale, if you look at India education system, we have a stringent way of professional life, right? You cannot take a leap year, just go traveling to figure yourself out. You'll come back and you'll say, "Yaar, career khatam, kya karna hai, nahi pata." I know. So Hostel wants to break that sort of segment. That is why we created and brought this entire hostel ecosystem to India. And it was also a good chance for us because it's like a blue ocean strategy. Cheap guest houses, expensive homes, nothing for the solo traveler to go. But we had to create an entire industry that was not present in India. Hostels was associated with what I would say student housing back in 2013-14. So we were the first brand, and obviously to create an industry, you have to take certain bold decisions. We were very happy initially that something new, good chance, big business is going to come in, but industry was not growing at the pace that we wanted. We were not listed on MMT or any other portfolios because hostel as a concept was not present there.
When did you start it?
2013, 2014. Okay. Even the softwares that were there, everything was for hotels. Nothing was related to how you list the beds online. So we had to overcome this entire problem of enabling software teams to develop things that are there for experiential travel and bed not the ADR for rooms.
We will cover the entire experience gamut, but very quick one-liner on 2026 outlook.
2026 outlook, I think we are seeing like a 300 to 400% growth margin.
Wow.
But not just in India, but globally as well. But I say about India, I'm sorry taking more than one line. But we have covered 100 destinations in India, and we see that we have not even scratched the surface, because the 2008 history that we had, every single tier 3, tier 4 destination has its own story to tell.
And how many international markets?
We are there in Nepal and Thailand as of now.
Nepal, Thailand and India.
Yeah.
Thank you. Ajita?
Yeah, so just going back to the question that you had asked, which was on supply, right? So you're right that the pace at which hotels can add supply is going to be limited. And that's why alternate accommodation as a category becomes extremely important, because the pace at which the supply can be added is tremendous. And I'll take the example of Mahakumbh that happened. And cities like Ayodhya and Prayagraj saw 1,000x increase in the amount of supply that they had. I mean, on day one, there was maybe 10, 20 people, 10, 20 room nights happening, and then suddenly it became like 1,000x of that. And that happened only because in alternate accommodation, every home can tomorrow become a guest house, can become a homestay. And so therefore, we are seeing a very healthy growth in supply, both online supply, and even then there is so much supply which is not even online and offline supply. So to me, I think we're just scratching the surface of alternate accommodation as a category, both from the demand side and the supply side. In places like Kumbh, demand came before supply, and then supply quickly caught up. But in a lot of places, places like Goa, places like Kannur, supply is so beautiful, supply is being added so well that demand gets generated because there is such amazing supply that is out there in the market. So yeah, I think we're just scratching the surface on both sides in alt accommodation.
VIDEC?
See, if you just step back and look at what's going to happen into the Indian markets over the next 2 to 3 decades, if there is one firm belief you need to have, it's that India is going to go through a massive rocket ship kind of a growth curve, right? This is not something we are saying without looking at what the data is telling us, without looking at what economy is telling us, and without looking at what has happened in the West and what's happened in China, etc. in the past when they were at this stage of economy. So we should all be convinced that what's going to happen over the next 2 to 3 decades is going to be absolutely nothing like the kind of growth we've seen before, but many, many, many times over. Now coming to the point, is the hotel inventory going to be good enough to solve that? Absolutely not, because it grows at 2 to 3% per annum. Look at the structural complication of building a hotel, and that's why you grow at 2 to 3%. Globally, India could be 4 to 5%. Whereas demand will boom at 14, 15, 18, 20%. So where is the gap going to get filled by? Not just because the demand wants alternate acco, but also because of sheer necessity, you will need alt acco, right? Alt acco is growing at 25-30% by conservative estimates. The good news for people like Saffron Stays, us, even alt acco, is that it's a well-kept secret, and I'm happy with that. Let it be a well-kept secret. Demand is growing fast, but supply is actually building up very, very fast in key markets. And to 2026, we started in 2023, but that was just towards the end of 2023. 24 and 25 have been phenomenal years for this industry, and obviously hence we were also doing fairly well. 26 we see as the beginning of the next 2 to 3 years of readiness for the hockey stick curve to take off. And obviously when 28, 29, 30 happens, we don't know what's going to hit us, and I'm very bullish on that as well.
Thank you. Ms. Karulekar?
I think a lot has been covered by everyone over here, but I'll just add that when you were showing that chart before, I think there's a very similar pattern that you see even in the alt acco, that barely 10% of it is actually represented by brands sitting here. 90% is still independent and unorganized. So there are going to be 2-3 trends that will happen. One is a lot of the unorganized will move into the organized. I think MMT is also trying to move the unorganized into the organized sort of a thing. So that is one. Second big thing that is happening is that one is of course the demand that is coming up, but why is the supply sort of adding faster is because of the incredible amount of investments that are happening today in India just to connectivity. I mean, just by roads. And you have all these, roads that are coming up, all these expressways that are coming up. And you will see that the first people to, get there are going to be the HNIs who go and build real estate over there. And the minute that real estate starts developing in these places is where, we will be the first ones to ring the bell over there and say, okay, sign up. So I think that is going to be another thing, which is also why supply in the hotel industry is slower, but here it will pick up much, much faster.
So we have the growth in the CAGR for the growth in supply, about 18%. To break it down for everyone, hotel market is going 9% annually. Outbound hotel, which is a bigger piece, that is one of the faster categories, that is growing at 20% annually. But more importantly, when you look at alt eco, Ritvik said 2-3% growth in hotel supply. Alt eco supply is growing 18%. I was with Mr. Mago last Friday. He said that MMT barely had any alt eco supply, and now you have 27,000 listings, right?
Same story with most of the big operators.
All the guys. And the fastest growing category, the reason why we have this panel today, is alt eco, 38% annual CAGR, right? Never been seen before. So with that as a backdrop, let's now open it up to, for example, the various consumer cohorts. When you, Ajita, let's begin with you because you have a bigger supply, and we should definitely come to you, because hostel and cohort go together. You have a very specific cohort. But break down some of the larger consumer cohorts by maybe age group or maybe the type of family or.
So I think two interesting cohorts is one, definitely Gen Z. So if you look at Gen Zers, almost 1.3x of Gen Z's demand is coming to alt eco as compared to hotels, because they want those unique experiences. They want that feeling of going together. That's one. Second is families going together, right? So we are more and more moving towards a nuclear family structure. But when people travel, it is multi-generation, as a joint family people travel.
Correct.
So that's the second one. Third one which we are seeing is, as compared to hotels, for example, and alternate accommodation, drivable distances. So cities, destinations, leisure places which are drivable destinations, alternate accommodation as a use case becomes that much higher. You mentioned right in the beginning, right, like what is alternate accommodation? Anything that is not a hotel is an alternate accommodation. But that's the beauty of it. It's easier to define, or one way of defining alternate accommodation is what is the supply type. But to me, alternate accommodation is a use type, right? So like Aviral said, younger audiences who want to create a community do not want to go to a hotel, would want to go to an alternate accommodation. Multi-generation family who want to go there and spend time with each other will go there. Even smaller teams in organizations, right? If I have a team of 20 people and I want to go outside for a team offsite or for a jamming session, don't want to go to a hotel, would much rather go to an alternate accommodation. Beautiful villas, there's you can work there, there's beautiful Wi-Fi, but then I'll say at the end of the day, there's also a pool where you can enjoy yourself. If you're, drivable destinations, weekend getaways, they're beautiful A-frames, the kind of properties that are coming suit so beautifully to the use cases that the customer is today looking for, and unique use cases, which is why I think like you said, the category is going to see anywhere between 35 to 40% CAGR growth. So yeah.
Ritvik?
Yeah, so pretty much who knows data better than Make My Trip? So she's got all the cohorts covered. But just to add, between Gen Z and millennials, we are seeing about 75% plus of our travelers covered there. A twist, I mean not a twist, but a tangential point to the fact that now corporate travelers for just workshops, we are seeing that hit about 7-8%. Now obviously it's a combination of the first category and non-Gen Z, non-millennials as well. And this is growing very fast. It was 0% in 2024 for us. Maybe it is a GTM issue or maybe it's also new behavior, but we are making a lot of effort to educate the corporate market that this is a way better option than going and sitting in a boring banquet hall of sorts. Lastly, I might not call it a cohort, but one very interesting thing, and this is linking it to Tejas's point. People after buying a Merc and BMW within a month, they are at our villas, right? Because see, when you buy a Merc and a BMW, you can't drive in Mumbai and Bangalore and Gurgaon. In fact, you will not drive in. So I have so many behavioral anecdotal stories where in Gurgaon, I'm going to drive my Maruti. For the highway, I'm going to take my BMW because nahi to thuk jayegi, right? So everybody is really using this massive increase in income levels, buying big automobiles, coupled with amazing highways and getting away 8, 10, 12 trips a year for 1 day to 2 days is becoming the norm like it was in the West in early 2000s. And I think that's really a new cohort developing of sorts, the roadies of sorts.
So I should add, Tejas, I live in Andheri, I have a 6-year-old, and there is no saffron stay within 30-kilometer radius that I haven't done. And, and we are talking about Igatpuri, Nashik, Lonavala too, the other side.
Was it 12 trips a year or 20?
More than that, definitely
See,
more
that's the
than that.
point,
Yeah,
that's the point.
Definitely more than that. Yeah.
Next year, you should have this room with relevant people filled till the end, and we should have a better slot
Wait,
for for the session itself.
One thing I should add, in terms of the definition of alternate accommodation, since I do market research and commercial due diligence, we do not include dharamshalas, and there is a certain type of supply that we don't include. We also do not include service apartments that are designed for very long corporate stays. Everything else is alternate accommodation. I'll come to you and I'll begin with you because you touched upon the geography of it. The phenomena of using alternate accommodation as a use case outside of the metro cities. So walk us through with, and then I'll definitely want to have each of your take as we go from the urban India to tier 2, tier 3, tier 4, but then cities in Punjab, for example, high share of NRIs. So how does it break down?
I think we just now discussed this concept about infrastructure and roads being built that are enabling people to go to these places. But if you talk about alternate accommodation and scaling in India, you have to unlock new destinations, right? So for us, it's a different outlook that obviously highways are important, but only to a certain extent. When you talk about the last mile delivery, so we have this saying in our company's hostel that broken roads are not a bug, it's a feature for us.
Good.
Because these are the true findings that you're able to unlock and the experience that you get beyond the ordinary with the cities. And we obviously talked about this concept of people buying mercs and staying with you. It's the opposite with us that people open up a hostel and then they are able to buy a merc. The reason being that when you go deeper into these ecosystems, real estate and land rate is very low. So once you open up a hostel or any alternate accommodation and the place grows up, so the real estate multiplies very fast. So we've seen these case studies. We unlock the destination of Beer. Beer, yeah. A phenomenal place, paragliding capital. 2013, 14 or 15, you would not even find a place to eat a paratha after 8 p.m. Right now you go, you would find German baked bread.
This is in Uttarakhand?
It is in Himachal.
Himachal.
So the reason being that once a hostel, and there was no other good property there apart when a hostel opened up, but because the Gen Z travels and there is so much of social media and user-generated content, people realize that there is something to this place to offer. Then new hospitality establishments, other players start coming in, cafes. So the entire economy of that place within 3 years transforms. This is going to be the case with another place we've opened up. It's called Pumbarai. It's near Kodaikanal. 28, 29, by 2028 you would see the entire destination is transformed because we know this is the place. So hostel is now facing this unique problem of unlocking destinations and we are able to create that demand. So people come to us not because we are good, but because we are able to suggest to them what is the next best place to go. And because we rely on the local community so much to enable that, so we are able to create that economy around that place. So I think maybe, like Make My Trip is such a phenomenal reach across India. We need to work more together to unlock these destinations because the demand can come because the segment is growing. Supply would come in at all these places, but India has this problem of ki market is looking good, let's fill it up and cluster it up. So right now, what I see across this alternative accommodation space, maybe you can correct me, but I am seeing clusters all across India. It is not spread evenly. That is something that is needed when you talk about this industry level revolution coming, and otherwise it's going to just be limited and the experience is going to go down.
What do you say, Ajita?
No, I completely agree, and I think the way that we are looking at it is not at a city level, but sort of a cluster city level. So instead of just looking at Nainital, also looking at whatever is around Nainital, because like I said, alternate accommodation, a lot of the demand comes from people who are driving. So when you're driving, you don't necessarily need to stay in the middle of Shimla or in the mall road. You're very happy going like 30 kilometers outside, and that's where you go to Kufri or you go to Thiog or you go to Mashobra and you go slightly outside. And the reason you're able to go slightly outside is because hotels will never come there, because there isn't enough of demand cluster there. But alternate accommodation is able to bring up that place beautifully. Both supply and demand follow there. But just an interesting point on what Aviral was saying, right? So I was in Manali and Munnar in the last 2 weeks. These are not new destinations. But because of more and more alternate accommodation coming and the kind of customer coming there, there is a whole different industry which is coming up. The adventure sports that is coming. I mean, I did not think 10 years back that I would see hot air balloons in Munnar and Manali. But they're all over there. Like there is a paragliding taking place like every 30 seconds in Manali now. Simply because that customer is going there because this supply, this new kind of supply is there. So they can have those.
Economy.
Exactly. So the new experiences that people are able to have because of this this kind of accommodation is changing the entire tourism face.
Anything to add, Ritvik, Tejas?
No, see, we are very clear on how we want to approach this. We want Alt-Acco to be at par with the branded 5-star hotels of the country. So obviously our choice of destination is going to be very, very specific. We boast of a 95% 5 on 5 score. So we are very specific about the experience that the customer is going to have. Because if you've got to build this industry, you cannot have 9 bad experiences and 1 good experience. So I have a slightly different take. I said we want to select our destinations very carefully. Grow them meaningfully and grow them at a level where the experience is far better than going to a hotel. Otherwise, it's just going to be that much slower and that much hit by chance kind of an approach. At least we want to avoid that approach.
Right. How many cities are you in at this?
We are currently at about 46.
Nice. Yeah. Okay. How about you, Tejas? How many cities?
I actually lost count, but I think we are in a lot of states, of course, and we actually don't count it by cities. We count it by sort of clusters and micro markets of sorts. And I think Ritvik is absolutely right. I think it's very important to look at what cluster can yield you the right kind of supply, and then sort of go, because our product is our business is very product forward. So the right kind of product gets you the right kind of demand, and then it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, self-fulfilling sort of a cycle. I think you also meant to ask about whether the demand is also coming from a tier 2, tier 3 sort
Correct.
of a thing. So I think that this is a very interesting one, that there's a lot of democratization that is happening in the way people are consuming content. And it's because they are able to consume that content, there is a lot of demonstration effect also about it. So I want to go where this person has gone. I want to go where this Instagram photo was taken. And, tying into what you spoke about Gen Z, and I think one of the key trends and key reasons is that Gen Z today is totally shunning big brands. They are no longer enamored by big brands. They are definitely enamored by aesthetics, and they're definitely enamored by places that they can boast that I discovered this. So it is driven by that, and therefore the alternate accommodations are now consumed more by Gen Z. And I'm seeing this sort of a evolution since we started about 10 years back. I think, hostel also started 10 years back. So I've seen this evolution in the way that demand has kind of changed. And we're seeing more and more, like Ritvik rightly said, Gen Z and millennials consuming. We always thought that, it's a high ticket item, and so therefore maybe millennials, Gen Zs can't afford it. But we find that, the group of people just come together, split the bill, and they want actually the highest level of, or the highest quality of properties that we can offer.
So we, very quickly on your point, we have the ADR, and the beauty of your product is while the ADRs are higher, because there is a group phenomena, generally speaking, no smaller family of 2 would go and book a villa, right? Unless it's a shareable villa. So there is that beauty, right? Unlike in hotel, you would see that only 8% of the supply in India is sold above ADR of 5,000 rupee a room night, which is beginning of a 3.5 star. Right, so there is that big divergence between
the key is here. The key is a difference, right? There, a key is a room. Here, the key is a home.
The whole, yeah.
So hence, it's slightly misleading, but broadly, I don't think the difference per room is very different.
Correct. But very quickly on this note, because you see, as Ajita was also saying, and India is very, 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 very diverse, and you have many, many use cases, and the only common denominator throughout India is the whole family phenomena, wherein, so that cuts across. And you have many destinations wherein, unless you have an alt-eco, you really do not have anything. right? And you can have a very terrible trip otherwise. So if you look at, and 70% of the supply, by the way, of alt eco is either in the north, which is the mountains, the hills, or otherwise in the south, which is again mountain, hills, and the beaches. Yeah, unlike in the west and east. So I think there, and we also have metro and urban, but slightly lesser, which is where I think some of the use cases that you said, right? Team offsite and all can come to avail.
There is an interesting take. What do you call Lonavala?
I know.
I call Lonavala Mumbai outskirts.
Correct.
Right? How does it matter really?
It's hills for
Right.
us. It's hills for us.
But
Mumbai
outskirts of
का
Mumbai.
Whatever
right?
we have got, right?
तो ये क्या है?
कितना एक घंटा थोड़ा सा दूर है, right? So because 1 hour today is nothing. If you have to really do NCR, one end to the other end is 2.5 hours or a minimum, right? So what is Lonavala? So the way you look at it is actually that there is a large demand market with good connectivity will improve a whole ecosystem of alternate acco options. And why alternate acco? Because nice, lovely and fast infrastructure development is only possible in that way. If today you have to make a hotel in Goa, it's going to take you 4 to 5 to 6 years to get it even ready, and then another year, 2 years before it starts selling. Alt acco, the loveliest villas, 24 months flat, ready to sell, right? So that's the difference. You're talking about a 5-year runway difference, right? So that's why it's the future, and that's why it's going to really change. You look at Make My Trip data, and who'll know it better, right? Make My Trip data in the last 6 years, alt acco 6 years ago versus alt acco today.
Oh yeah.
Right? Look at Airbnb data. Look at Book, because we meet all 4 big players, and look at their data, and it's telling in itself. What is happiest for us, people like Saffron Stays and us, is that it's a good kept secret, and we are very happy with that. Right?
So, do you want to add anything on the addition of the supply?
So actually the thing that we observe is that when you talk about alternate acco, the definition itself has to be innovation-led in itself. What we have as a trend in India is that people want to replicate and do it at scale and do it fast. Alternate acco came as a concept because it is experience-led. It's a different sort of infrastructure altogether. So we need to have those sorts of programs in place, that, let's say, geodesic domes as a culture, camping or caravan parks as a culture that India is missing, that the youth needs. That needs to come into place rather than just the villas. That is obviously a good business segment to operate in right now. But if you talk about the industry as a whole, we are not supporting them to a certain extent in terms of innovative alternate accommodation. That should be the definition of it.
It's both experience and necessity also, I would say. But moving on, this chart shows the resilience of Indian travel market. We had a lot of disruption in 2025. On the top, you see the domestic air departure. Air departures are a good proxy of how the travel market has performed. And you would consistently see it wanting to break out and again, hit new highs. October, November, we were at a lifetime high before Indigo happened. But there was a consistency in the demand. Again, we simply do not have hotel supply to kind of service to that demand. 70% occupancy, very high ADRs. You simply get to a saturation point. So how are you seeing alt eco occupancies, ADR, some of these yield metrics panning out at the back of we are constrained by demand, we are constrained by supply demand driven market?
So essentially, at least the space that we occupy is about groups, and therefore we will perhaps always have this, some sort of a, I would say that we will never be able to achieve the kind of occupancies that maybe a hotel can. So 60%, 70% is very rare for us in a few maybe chosen markets or maybe a few chosen properties. But most of the properties will actually, follow the similar sort of a trend, which would be a 40%, 45% sort of a thing, and everyone's happy about it, right? So although you've shown the flights, I think we've spoken consistently about how we are more about drivable destinations.
Correct.
And especially for Saffron Stays, I think we are, because we are such a Maharashtra-centric brand, almost, I think more than 50% of our inventory is sitting in Maharashtra, and everything is drivable distance. So we are only paying attention to that, where people can quickly go, especially because they're groups. As the distances increase, the group size will reduce. Then it becomes more like a private, a family, couple, small thing. Or they become rarer. You spoke about the frequency. So for us, the frequency is 10, 12 sort of holidays in a year because they are drivable. And they're quick sort of getaways. But when the distances increase, then you are maybe once in 2 years. Or maybe
Do you know what is the sweet spot for you? Is it a 2-night stay, 1-night stay, 3-night stay? Which is the highest?
typically anything between 1 to 2 nights.
1 to 2 nights. All right. Now, somebody also talked about outbound. I was hoping Aman could also join us and we would have had a full circle in Airbnb. But since we have you, Ajita, here, do you have some guidance? Because outbound is a category. It never once came down in 2025. We are very, very underutilized. Look at 92 million passenger and we still only have about 32 million odd travelers who travel internationally. And now that you have taught, that is what is Make My Trip, right? Follow India demand, and then you keep catering to their preferences. Now that, thanks to all of you guys on the stage, you have taught them the consumption of Alteco as a product category. What do you see in Indians traveling outbound and booking Alteco as a lodging type?
I would actually say that it's the reverse. I think a lot of the Indians who are using Alteco today, maybe their first use case was actually when they were flying outside of India.
Okay.
Purely because there it becomes a value equation. If I'm flying to Paris, if I'm flying to New York, actually getting a hotel there in the center of the city is extremely expensive, but finding an alternate accommodation is still possible. And then that customer does that on their foreign trip, and then they also start doing it in India, and that's what's been happening in the last maybe 4 or 5 years back. Now, happily, we are actually seeing that a lot more customers, their first experience itself is in India. You were asking ADRs and the value equation, right? And the beauty of it is the people are not using alternate accommodation necessarily in India for a value equation. I'm not using alternate accommodation because it's cheaper, because I want to go to Delhi and I want the cheapest room in CP, and that's why I'm using an alternate accommodation. They're actually using it because of the experience, because that property gives them that, not just the low price, but actually the value of either an additional living space, an additional privacy, additional ability to hang out with people in their groups, etc., etc. So maybe 4 or 5 years back, the customers were first using it outside of India and then using it in India. Now we're very happy to see that customers are experiencing this product in India first and then, of course, outside as well.
Ritvik?
So, just on that outbound thing, outbound alternate acco is huge, will be huge, and to Ajita's point, some have started the journey actually more from Europe coming then into domestic consumption. The only big conviction we have as Elevas is that it's going to be lesser rooms per key. So you are going to be having a 3.5, 4 average rooms per key in India, which is a very popular category, which is villas. For outbound, it will be more like 1 and 2 bedroom apartments. We are very bullish on this segment. As the brands in India start taking their brands outside India, you will see that add that much more growth to this, space, too. Right? And the other thing why outbound is growing fastest is nothing but the way the aircraft story is structured, right?
Yeah, sure.
We are getting these narrow-bodied aircrafts. There's more profit flying into Sri Lanka rather than flying
into... Look at the destinations.
So it's that simple. I was in Sri Lanka many times last quarter. And the very simple one metric which every operator gave me. 2024, they had 20% Indians in November. 2025, guess that number for luxury villas, 80%.
Wow.
That's the growth which is happening because you can now fly cheaper to Colombo from Bangalore.
They have almost become Hong Kong to China, right?
It's as simple as that. So, that's just one small example. You look at what's happened to Vietnam over the last 3 years. You look at what's happened to Bali over the last 4 or 5 years. You look at what's happened to Dubai on an already huge base. So it tells you small base destinations to huge base destinations all have grown, and Dubai, the new airport, is just about to launch, so more flying routes will open. It's just going to go through a rocket ship. I'm very confident that this timing is so perfect because of the economy and the aircraft delivery is kind of literally coming together at the right time.
Aviral, hostel is a very well-known, well-established, and there is also a certain kind of price versus standard and what you expect in the Europe, and the moat you were talking about, that 1 year of backpacking or maybe 2. Have you seen anything such? Indians who have traveled international figured that, okay, this is what a hostel product is, and maybe bringing that phenomena back home?
People do try, but I think it's important at this stage when you're talking about outbound travel to also call out our flaws honestly, right? So obviously it's a very good success story that we are seeing more dispensable income and people are doing outbound travel. But we've done ground surveys ourselves with a lot of Gen Zs. And a lot of that is being driven by the failure of the Indian ecosystem to develop smooth travel tourism ecosystem hubs in terms of flight prices across our domestic destinations. Compare Delhi Goa flight to a Delhi Bangkok flight. Obviously demand metrics play a role. Or compare that to Goa was the site trans capital of the world for such a long time, right? Amazing potential.
Which capital?
Goa.
Right.
And site trans is like getting crazy. Ibiza, Mirisa and Sri Lanka. You look at these destinations, they are evolving their policies around ease of travel. We have this problem of certain unions coming in place, local barriers coming in place. That is hurting the image of India, right? Both from a domestic tourism standpoint as well as from an inbound. But that is something that we honestly need to look at, and we are the ones who can solve that, right? So
in this sector, genuinely, मेरा एक view है, आत्मनिर्भर है, inbound चाहिए ही नहीं. I'm telling you honestly, my firm view on tourism in India is this is thankfully one sector. Yes, inbound growth is good. We'll get it when the time happens and when it happens. हमें चाहिए ही नहीं. इतना ज़्यादा domestic boom है ना boss. You don't need inbound. Your outbound and domestic is
far more resilient,
massive.
right? The demand is far more resilient. It's far more steady state, and you know that it's going to happen. So you just have to deliver on your promise, and you'll get that demand. You'll keep continuing to hit those numbers. So absolutely right. I think you can't, in today's world especially, I think you can't really depend so much on inbound. And you know, anything can happen anywhere.
So I think what Aviral was really saying, and you know, I should add, inbound is the only category post-pandemic which has not reached its pre-pandemic level. Air, bus, hotel, सारे categories बाहर हो गए, 2023 में ही बाहर हो गए थे. We are still less than 10 million inbound travelers, और this year तो we will go to the dark ages. 2019 के भी पीछे चले जाएंगे because Bangladesh is a major source market. So I think what Aviral is saying is, considering all the things we have to offer, we can do better in terms of inbound. When inbound
100%.
happens, you know, the broad
100%.
ecosystem
and
also
not just
increases.
inbound, just look at domestic travel. अगर young बंदा यहाँ का गोवा जाने के पहले थाईलैंड जाने का सोच रहा है,
I know.
what are the points why does he want to go, right? There are certain tourism infrastructure policies in place that help them to do that. And obviously I do disagree with, we are Atmanirbhar and we should be, but tourism and social connection of humans is something that we might not need international travelers to come in, but it creates a better world when you have people meeting together and
Agree.
understanding, right?
No, but see, the one has to be convinced that the world we have created over the last 7 years was unthinkable 7 years ago. Aircrafts, airports, highways, automobiles.
2.5
Yeah, see, there is
2.5
no
billion
doubt
trips.
we are a younger country and we have a huge headroom, and that's great. By the way, this huge headroom is why we are all raising rounds and the startup hub of the world. You know, so this is amazing.
Correct. 2.5 billion trips, by the way.
Yeah,
Phenomenal.
absolutely phenomenal. You know,
It's
and
on
how is that
steroids.
happening? It's happening because of the infrastructure.
Yeah. Well, last take, since all of you guys are building supply, and the thing about your supply is unless that supply becomes discoverable, it's not bookable. So somebody's got to do that grunt work of going to that villa, talking to the supplier, explaining the whole merits, and then offering them tech and bringing them online, and then ensuring that they also make sure that they update it properly. The moat there, you know, so this is the whole India ka tana bana. On the top, you have the rail and the domestic air, highly penetrated categories. And then you have the two hotel categories, the hotel and the alt accommodation. Hotel at 28% penetration and alternate accommodation at about 33% online penetration, I think. The moat is of that 33% market, OTAs in alt eco commands 98% market share. So almost all the supply that is available online, of that 100, you guys sell 98. There is very limited supplier who has a prowess to completely distribute themselves, meaning there is a very high moat on third-party intermediaries. That is generally the case across supply types in India, because there is a long headroom for the online penetration to grow outside of the domestic air category. So sky's the limit, you know. But any thoughts there in terms of bringing the supply online, because you clearly have a moat. Once that supply is online, that guy is going to remain dependent on you for selling them for practically forever.
Sorry, so if I've understood your data correctly, you're saying that there's a lot of dependence on the OTAs or the third-party distribution, right?
So on the right, the number is a third-party
For
distribution.
demand generation.
In fact, In fact, I don't know about Ritvik, but for us, in fact, it's completely opposite. In fact, I think barely 30% of our sales happen through online travel agents, and 70% is on our website.
So you are also, by the way, so you are also so supplier is somebody who owns it, because you're bringing, so you are aggregator who are also in our methodology we are considered as considering as an intermediary. So Stay Vista, you guys, Lohono,
We're
Aliva.
more like operators, right? But sorry.
I mean, is the question to say that is all the available supply already 98% online?
No. 33% online.
Yeah.
There is a
I
big,
think much lesser. Much lesser than that. Much lesser than that.
So वो जो 1,30,000 जो units हैं, which are the total units, mostly exclusive.
Actually, we were having a sidebar, and why I kept using twice at least this term best kept secret.
Correct.
Anyone who understands and
the 67% is a secret.
No. Anyone who's done a little bit of peeling the onion on real estate and RERA work will realize what's really happening on construction, right? So this number is very, very high. 33% is not online. We are much lower than that. But you'll do obviously what is available easily. Nobody has done a good formal study on leisure real estate under construction.
Correct.
And that's good news.
Correct. All right.
I think, but just to be fair, right? So the beauty of alternate accommodation is that it is long tail, right? So to some extent, the standardization or the getting a number of homestays under one brand is still a very, very small part of the market. So if the supply is very long tail, that number 97% makes sense, right? So where will demand generation happen from? Where will discovery of that property happen from?
Through you guys?
No. From social media first. So the first place that they see it is social media. Then they go to Google. Then they go to OTAs. But that is where demand generation is happening, by the way, both for online as well as offline players as well. However, if you look at, I think the way that we were reading this data was, if there is a property that is online now, how much of that property's business comes from an OTA versus outside OTA? That's where I think that 97% number looked off.
No, so all third-party distribution is on the right. So it includes aggregators, all the guys who are involved in the value chain in bringing that supply online versus that supplier selling it himself. Like the intercity bus, the lowest penetrated category, right? Even there, it has 90% OTA share.
Yeah.
But the category itself has 24% penetration in the intercity bus category, right? So meaning that there is a high moat. They simply do not have the tech or the prowess to make it discoverable to the broader universe.
But again, it's just the nature of the supply, right? So because see, all said and done, the hostels, the villas, etc., is still a very small portion of the alternate accommodation supply, right? It is the homestays, it is the people who are like basically inside their house, letting off two rooms, etc. None of that can actually come online and generate demand online. So they do, because they're so long tail, they need that help of some kind of online support, whether it is social media, whether it is Google, whether it is just Google Maps, whether it is YouTube, whether it is reviews from customers. All of that discovery is going to happen on some online platform.
And there is no number available on homestays. So this does not include, just that is another complete unknown. So we are completely up with our time. I just want to have a last word. Ritvik, we do finance, M&A and capital raise, and that's my world. And we are living in the biggest funding winters of our time, right? So I have seen the 2013-14 era, wherein raising money was just, and everybody wanted a piece of India, Indonesia, China. And then there is no funding now in the early stage businesses. There is no problem with LBOs and late stage rounds. And congratulations to Ritvik, Alivas. They have managed to raise a good round. And you can do that because that is very limited now. Any word, from the wise to any startups in the room?
No, so I think we have just raised 2 rounds, so I am not the last person to be able to advise on this. But my experience I can share. I think because I was in a couple of startups before I started my own company, and there in 2021 was bullish funding environment, by the way, contrary to what people remember. 2021 was hugely favorable for raising funds. The difference which has happened from 21 to now is that you've got to build insanely potentially profitable businesses. That lens has become very, very, so build high quality work, take your time, but build work which will eventually generate good money, because or unless you're doing something phenomenally behavioral change like in AI, right, which is going to then take maybe 7-8 years, but after that just take a huge hockey
Make
stick.
an anthropic.
Exactly. But in businesses which are in traditional spaces like services or products, you've got to display earlier on than ever before that you are building an insanely profitable business.
All right. Guys, thank you so much. It was a great discussion. Give it to Aviral, Ajita, Ritvik, and Tejas. Thank you.
One question has been really itching me. How many of you are not from the 4 companies which are on this panel? How many of you are from the 4 companies which are here?
Not a bad
Oh,
one.
so 50-50. Good to know. Next time, I promise you, as people will understand more about alternate acco, they'll realize this is the panel to go to, and that panel will be the first or the second panel to be there, and that's the work I think Viren is doing.
This is
very
also,
much needed.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
this is also to do with being the last panel on the day, but he very rightly said, this is to be continued.
Oh, yes, please.
Very quick.
Boss, we are the last ones. We can really take as much time. इसके बाद किसी को आना नहीं है ना?
Thank you. My name is Milind. I'm a family travel agent. So basically my target group is family, dada dadis and bacha parties and infants, right? And when we're talking about alternate accommodations, right? Families are the last ones actually who look for it. They come with it, like, online देखा है, alternate accommodation बता दो, but eventually जब तक 4 revisions होते हैं, we end up booking a 3-star, 4-star hotels. That's how it works. Maybe I'm also responsible for that, like me, because subconsciously I also talk about hotels, because that's what I have been selling for last almost 11 years. So if I want to push alternate accommodations to families, right, and give them that feeling that it's secure, it's safe, it's hygienic, and you'll have a great time. And I also should have that confidence that, kuch gadbad nahi hogi. So how should I go forward with it? Like from your perspective, how can I sell alternate accommodations to families who are always worried about something going wrong?
I know, I was just going to say that. Show them the videos that she has of her villas and some reviews and you're sorted. That too.
No, so I'll tell you, absolutely agree. So I was about to say that, start from the branded players. Get your confidence up. Today we work with 1100 travel agents actively giving us bookings.
Okay.
I just served a family just the last week which had a 14-year-old as the youngest member, so not that young, but a 92-year-old couple as the eldest couple in the family in that group. And the comment from the person who had made the booking, who was in his early 50s, was this is the first time I've been able to go at midnight for a party in Goa because I know the butlers are taking care of the family back here. And post-dinner, the butlers know which medicine has to be served at what time. You cannot get that in a 3-star, 4-star, forget a 5-star hotel. Because in a 5-star hotel, 200 people are serving 600 people. In my villa, 2, 3, 4 people are serving the one family. Unbelievable experience, unbelievable personalization, unbelievable care. So start with a couple of branded players, then your confidence will go up. But yes, I personally, that's why I said earlier my bias. If it's an uncontrolled experience, it will actually hurt the industry. And that's why we're very careful with where we go and what we take to the industry.
Anybody who wants to add?
No, I think we are at the end of our time and we are making many people wait. Thank you so much. Guys, thank you once again.